Cosmic here, and welcome back to another Legends of Runeterra video. Today we're going to be talking about the up-and-coming anti-burn deck, you would really say, Anivia Braum Wombo combo. Now, going back to all the way to Action Jackson's video, which is 8 months ago now at the time of recording this, this is the zombie Anivia deck. Now I know, Blevins, I'm sorry, I love you, but I refuse to call this the Bald Eagle or whatever name that you've given it. I will always just call this Zombie Anivia or Revive Anivia, because really that's what this deck wants to be doing. So for those that played in the preview patches, no, it's not nearly as good as it was back then, but I think that Anivia is finally in a more playable position. It's still really rough to play this on 6, but I think that with the meta settling here in a little bit, and maybe some tech choices that come in, you can get the payoff that you want with this style of deck. Now, noticeably, one card that is missing, at least from the version that we're running now, this is going to be TLG's take on it. There's quite a few out there, so no one really can take credit for like the current iteration because it goes all the way back to then, but you know, there's probably 6 to even 8 cards flex. I'm going to talk about some of those as we're going through this video that will round out this normal package, but at the end of the day, you want to be using Anivia and all the different ways you can bring it back. Now, if you go back to the deep decks, you might be very familiar with a card called Mist Call, which is a favorite of mine and actually notably missing from this list. So this is one of the cards that would typically be very good for bringing back Anivia, or if you set up some really cheeky plays, right? It just has random ally that died this round, so you can force your Rekindler to die and then revive that. Let's say you glimpse it, and then you get Rekindler plus Anivia, right? Or Braum, depending on how the board's set up. But most of the time, you're hoping for Anivia in that case. Just a very versatile card in what this can do for you. Now, however, it's not really seeing much play in this version, just because the list is so tight. You see that we're using things like Avalanche, Tavern Keeper's missing. You know, there's certain limitations you're going to have, right? At the end of the day, we only have 40 cards to work with, so it's going to be up to you depending on how you want to round out this deck, other than, you know, the most important cards that are going to be starting with it. So for the longest time, this was typically a meme deck, as it were, but I think that the reduction cost for Anivia really did help out. And just as it's positioned in the meta right now, with everybody playing these more aggressive strategies, having the typical heal install combo of Freljord and Shadow Owls, which we've seen season after season after season, always appears within the first week to punish those aggro decks. And that's exactly what it's doing. And I wish with every fiber of my body I was recording the video right before I went to record this intro. I played against a Darwing deck, or a Darius and Harrowing type of deck. We've recorded that previously, or talked about that previously in the last video. They were able to pull off a Harrowing. I had a Ruination, cleared the board. But what was nice is they got back 2 Legion Grenadiers off of it, and I went down to 1 HP, and I actually ended up winning the game. So I'm sure whatever games I go to record after this, there's no possible way I'll get a game as good as that one, but there are some very cheeky plays you can do in this list, and it does require you to, you know, play your outs in a very specific way that it can be punishing, but it is so worth it when you get to talk about those games and live through it. So let's talk about some of the cards that are actually in here, kind of more we'll go over the core strategy first, and then some more of the flex picks. The one thing that's different here, keep in mind, is that Braum is new thanks to the patch and the change that he got. So this is kind of a, well, yeah, of course it makes sense to add it now, and probably will be part of the shell going forward. But, you know, it's not exactly fair to compare old Braum and why he wasn't in the list versus new Braum and why he is in the list in this case. So Hapless Aristocrat, no surprise here. It's one of your best 1-drops against the aggressive strategies. Just being able to block their first 2 attacks, or 2 of their first attacking units, can go a very far distance for you. The other thing I really like about this, and I've been starting to find out, that it's actually a very nice follow-up to your Ruination as well, just in the event if you need a very cheap card to play that can then hopefully block 1 or 2 units for you again, allowing you time to kind of reestablish. Another key card here, Avrosan Sentry. Great 2-drop. I love that it draws a card, which really helps because you have to find your Anivias, you have to find your stall pieces or your heal pieces. Very important for that reason. Glimpse Beyond, no surprise if you go for a chump block, or if you have like a 1/1 spider against, let's say they're 5/5, you know, your spider's gonna die anyways. Might as well use a glimpse, get some cards drawn off of it, and hopefully again dig into those pieces that you're looking for. Vile Feast, another core piece in the Shadow Isles package. No surprise here, it's always seen play in the more control strategies. Draining for 1, getting a chump blocker. It really just does everything that you want it to at 2 mana, quite honestly. Very versatile card, one that we'll expect to be seeing a lot more of. Again, talking about more of the core packages first, Catalyst of Aeons. This really was a staple, or continues to be a staple, I should say, in all of these Freljord ramped styles of decks. Typically, you'll have to know your matchup. Some games you want to mulligan for this early, skip your first 2 turns, play this on turn 3 thanks to Spellmon, and then to play a typical package. But of course, if you're going against more burn style decks or aggro decks in general, you can't afford to just skip your first couple turns and then play this. Arguably, if you know they're playing a slightly slower version and you have the attack token, there's maybe some scenarios there where you might want it. But again, it's not something I would often keep in my opener against an aggressive strategy. Grasp of the Undying. This is one that is typically what we would say a core package of it, but it's been seeing in and out of play. I think it is where aggro is strong. You still want to play this. It's great for killing Hiberninger as well. So dealing 3 damage and 3 HP units are very popular in the meta. So getting to remove something and gain 3 HP is going to be a huge pickup for you, of course. So very nice to see Grasp appearing here as well. Withering Wail. So now this is one of the cards that you have to think of how this is good by itself. So it's obviously very good for that 1 turn you can get in to kill Heimerdinger's turrets because they all are X1s. If you're going against a spider deck or a very aggressive X1, 1 being the HP that the units have, style of aggro deck, this can just be a board wipe. However, what's really nice is with Anivia herself is you're able to combo this with her attack effect very easily. So later in the game, you can set it up where you attack with Anivia, you're on 10, right? So she's going to deal 2. You then have a Withering Wail to back it up, push everything to 3. But what's come in handy quite a few times, I've only played about 6 games with the deck so far, is setting up both Avalanche and Anivia. Now, you do have to be careful. This can in turn kill your own Anivia egg, which is obviously very bad, but she's pretty tanky where, again, you can set up these turns where you attack with Anivia first, set up a very nice Avalanche, maybe have a Withering Rail to support it, and it just will be a one-sided board wipe. That is a ton of damage coming at your opponent. So Avalanche here is not one of the typical cards you would see, and I think this is a very important discussion where if we continue to see these more low-to-the-ground aggressive strategies that don't have, more than 2 HP, with the exception of Crimson, who is obviously going to still hit you for 2 out of that, it can be very dangerous to play this card in some matchups. However, if we think about even the elusive strategies, and at least the ones I've been playing, either have always bricked or don't have deny anymore. Against the elusive decks, this can just be a nice 3-for-1, 4-for-1, what have you, and win you the game, right? I think the advantage that Avalanche has is that nobody's been playing it for as long as I can remember. It's been seen very, very, very little play, where especially in the Shadow Isles and Freljord package, it typically wasn't in this version of the deck, so people aren't really thinking about it when they see these 2 region combinations together. So this will get you some surprise wins. I think that's how I sold quite a few games earlier today, but again, something that is going to come in or out of this deck list depending on how the meta is shifting and what you're expecting to see. Beyond that, for more of your more control cards and more the top end, you're going to have Vengeance and Ruination. You'll notice that we're up here to 2 Vengeance. Some lists play 1, some lists have played none even, but quite frankly, just having a hard removal for something is going to be very important as these more popular mid-range and other control decks start to pop up. And then Ruination at 3, this is one that I keep going back on. So it's really good when it's good, right? But, at 3, it's one of those things that you can just always have it when you need it. But generally, if you draw 2 early on, it's going to feel like it's the end of the world for you, and you're probably going to get a loss of it if the rest of your hand doesn't shape up as nicely. But I think with the way the current meta is, and also keeping in mind, you can set up your board where you've played a bunch of Rekindlers, you have some Anivias on the board, you just kind of want to clear it, right? And your Anivias will come back, so don't be afraid to use this card, but then also keeping in mind, you're going to want to have some 1 or 2 drops to play off of this, so you still have some blockers, which are going to be very important. So I think overall, I guess the last card I haven't mentioned is Harsh Winds, right? So this is one that just as a one of your Anivias also turn to Harsh Winds. If they're playing like a more all-in strategy where they have like elixirs and mites, it's a great way just to shut them down and give you the fog of a turn as it were. So with that, Anivia, I think it's a really interesting card, and I'll talk about, or the one I forgot to mention is Tavern Keeper, right? It's a 3-drop, 3/3, heals for 3. That's another card that if you're seeing a lot more of the burn style of decks, definitely try to find room for it. But I don't think that with the way this deck is currently set up, I think it's the best tuned list for it. And Tavern Keeper is just a little bit too much, where in some other variations of Shadow Isles and Freljord, you might want it. So, Anivia, love the buffs to it. I think it's done a fantastic job at least getting it on the table for people to try out. And honestly, that's kind of all we can ask for with the current balance patch. With things the way they've been going, right? We're 2 months in. We're very, very late in this set. Riot can only do so much with changing cards, changing up the meta, right? We're not adding new cards. There's an argument there to be made about Braum, right? Where it technically was a new card and that you get a Poro now a lot easier. That does fundamentally change the dynamics of it. But it's not as new as saying getting the next set or with the next region, which is going to have a huge shakeup in the meta. And I understand a lot of people are frustrated by that. But you have to keep in mind with any ladder or patch reset that we're going to see, aggro is always going to be strong at the very start of it. And quite honestly, as people are trying to refine these lists, right, this one just came up recently, just play aggro for the first week. Anyone that knows me from my Magic background, I quite literally never played aggro. I hate it. I don't like playing it. It's not my archetype, but you become a better player if you start to understand where these aggro decks are coming from and what those lines of play will look like. So I think that's why I've been climbing a lot more, or a lot more efficiently than I have the last few seasons, because I've been playing more aggro decks. And honestly, just playing a wider list of archetypes will help you establish those, basic foundations of how they play out, how their general turns will go, and in turn you'll be able to counter them because you've taken that time to learn them. And that's something I think I see a lot in the Discord where people are like, you know what, I hate burn, it's the worst thing ever, I'm never gonna play it. You're only holding yourself back as a player if that's your mentality. And I get it. I was that way for 5 years, however long it's been. I guess you would say 5.5 years that I've been doing content creation. And again, I would always, back in the days of tabletop, I would make the other person play the aggro decks. And you know what? That was wrong. It was 100% wrong to do, just from a balancing perspective and growing as a player. So don't do that. But at the end of the day, I really like this list. I think it's going to be at least here to stay for a little bit. It might get pushed out as other control decks start to pop up, because the downside of this deck is it is very slow. I'm not here to tell you it's a perfect deck, but if we think about decks that are running Ladros and Atrocity, as soon as those start to come back, you don't want to be on this list. It's very hard to have enough ramp and have enough pressure where you're not just going to be falling over to that Ladros. Now again, you can win some of those games, don't get me wrong, but you don't have Atrocity. You don't have that late game over the top ton of damage that the other Shadow Isles decks are going to be having. And also keeping in mind, your first 5 or 6 amount of turns is going to be, well, Brood Awakening's gone, so you might have some chip damage here and there, but between both players, you're going to be at 20 going into, mana 8, mana 9, mana 10, and who would you rather be? Would you rather be the Ladros deck that chomps it in half right away, or would you try to play the Anivia deck that pings for 2 and gets chump blocked till the end of time? Not too hard to decide. So I really love this. Anyone who knows me, this has been one of my favorite archetypes. Freljord and Shadow Isles just apparently seems to be my thing for till the end of time. I'm probably gonna play They Who Endures next for that little reason I just stated. But I think for at least the next week or so, this is a solid tier 2 deck that you can play. If you're seeing a lot of those aggro strategies, you can punish them quite a bit. But again, there's gonna be some rough matchups, and Heimer, if you don't pull exactly the right cards, is just gonna roll over you. So I think it's a solid tier 2. That's kind of where I'm going to put my end up rating on it. And of course, we do have the TLG meta report, so make sure you go check that out. But other than that, I had a great time getting to play this. And thank you again. I think it was Alessio and Sasuke were the kind of the two that put our version of the list together. And I just stole it. So thank you guys. And always helping me out and getting these new lists. So with that, I'm out of here. I hope you all have a wonderful Monday. Enjoy the games, and I'll see you next time. Cheers. All right, so it looks like the TF Ezreal list up first, which Alessio has been swearing by, so we're gonna find out how this is gonna go, because I'm not too entirely sure. I know it's at least the version I've seen is slightly slower, so maybe we actually keep the Vile Feast because we can get the Black Market Merchant off the board, but Ruination Harsh Winds we don't really need, and then just Catalyst of Aeons, just generally a good card for helping us ramp into our Anivia, assuming we can draw it, and be in a better spot. Avalanche actually can be very good against them too, right? Because they don't have any counter spells, or denies I should say, or any direct way to counter the 2 damage. It will deal with the entire board. So this is all looking fairly good for us. So in case they auto pass, I am just going to go ahead and fire this off, because we actually do want to ramp here. I have to imagine that they're going to have something on 3, but they're not attacking, so we don't really lose anything by letting them attack and then have a plunder trigger or something, right? So this will probably connect, and if not, we do have at least the first avalanche that we can fire off. So, yep, they want to trigger plunder. Not much we can do about that. Our hand is not looking all that great, but maybe it's double Black Market Merchant, we have avalanche to follow up. Nope, just straight Pilfer's Goods. Still pretty decent opportunity for them to play something. Yep. They're gonna steal all of our cards. So here is a perfectly fine avalanche. We can actually use a Vile Feast here as a follow-up. Recover, I should say, a little bit of health here. Get this off the board, and then give us a chump blocker as well, which can be pretty important. There is a case here to save some of our mana, right? Because this can also die to a Withering Whale. So actually, we will save it for this turn.
Nothing escapes my
Arguably now killing it, removing it off the board would have been better. Okay. So they stole one of our cards. Pretty good spot for them. The Chronicler, we definitely want to save for an Anivia, but I also like the idea of just getting to draw some extra cards. But I think we're okay for at least now. This isn't that scary. But it is scary as our opponent has, you know, a full hand, as it were. Just want to go ahead and make sure we deny their plunder here. They could still have, like, make it rain or something. And it really does feel bad kind of using this here because they still get a spider out of it, but followed up their own spider then. And we still have 7 up for vengeance. Again, make it rain here looks pretty awkward for us, but ooh, or just a red card will do it as well. And also this triple ruination hand is doing us exactly 0 favors. So it looks like we're probably gonna try to line up with a avalanche here, depending on what our opponent plays.
These old eyes still see far.
We have to at least threaten something on the board, so it's probably just gonna get blocked by the spider, but then we have our own 1/1 to block the Twisted Fate as needed. Oof. Oof. We do get to draw a card. Hopefully it's something good. It is not. Now I want to just pass here. I want to try to get something. Like they do have to get some kind of action out of their hand. So maybe they do if I have a follow-up here, but I don't want to take just the extra 3 damage for no really good reason. A single 2/2 is not all that impressive, so the Ruination might pick up something else here. Yep, just going for chip damage. I mean, our opponent has a lot of cards to play. We're kind of stuck here. So this is a good spot. We have to take the damage. It's gonna hurt quite a bit, but you know, not much we can do about it. So in the video, this is kind of where I talked about with both the Ruination that's popping out and stuck in our hand, and not seeing something that Now we do have a lot of healing in the deck. We're not completely out of it here yet, but we still have to be keeping in mind this Ezreal, which is going to be very threatening once it gets online. We haven't played anything, so it's only 2 out of 8. Patience is something you need to learn with this list, for sure. Yep, so it looks like it's just gonna be another effect here. They stole a card. We can still grasp this as needed. So hopefully we can play something else. So yeah, and our entire hand is kind of whatever here. $20 cards left. Oh man, and they're not drawing our champions, right? So we know that they have to be coming up here sooner or later. And our opponent just probably has removal for days. So I mean, the 1/1 spider's not doing anything for us either. Yep, that's fine. Really wish I had a glimpse here. Gets Ezreal another level up. We're gonna have to just pass. Again, hand's not all impressive. Braum is not even good to play here. It's just giving them targets to level up their Ezreal. We need to find our Anivia more than anything else. This is kind of a big oof here. We still have triple Glimpse Beyond available to us if we can ever find it. There is a case here to play it in case they have like another Riptide Rex so that he absorbs some of the damage, but not sure how else we're really navigating through this. Yep. So this is probably Riptide Rex, so now we have to play it. You can do like this plus the Grasp to hopefully net some life. This has got to be a Riptide Rex. They've already played quite a few of the steel cards. Nope, just a big old Thermo Beam for 11, and we don't even have a glimpse to counter. That's kind of unfortunate. Rekindler does give us back something now, though, at least. That is a very ironic top deck. Again, our opponent's hand is starting to fill up. All right, well, it's something. And now we can use the Glimpse Beyond as needed. Really starting to worry about decking out in this case, though. It'd really be nice if we can grab another beam out of our opponent's hand, though. They might just be wondering what on earth we're playing, but they still have, what, one more of our cards? What do they even play? One. They had two more of our cards then, right? Which makes me wonder what they stole. Unless they stole both our glimpses. It's like the only main thing we haven't really seen yet.
Do they need our help?
I thought you'd never ask.
I mean,
Good luck. Have fun.
get a chip on this if they have anything, right? No? Well, this is interesting. I think we have to go ahead and fire off the grasp here. They might have their own glimpse that they stole from us. I can't think of quite anything else. But Ezreal is a real threat for us since we don't have an elusive to block it. It's not killing anything yet. You're still at 4. Even if you level up, it's gonna kill them. Okay, no other spell or anything, yeah. So we want to deny the level up here and also try to, or deny the trigger here and get some cards drawn, because again, we're kind of stuck. There it is. Thank you. And a rekindler, so as soon as our Anivia dies, we're online. Oof. All right, so I mean, Ezreal is going to be at 7. This is not looking good for us. The only good thing here is like Anivia is very difficult for to remove, but they're at 19. So as I mentioned, and this is actually a good showcase of it, it is difficult to play against the decks that are going to be a little bit slower because you just don't have a lot of action against them. This is very greedy, but we're not winning unless we get this Anivia online. So they might just have a Mystic Shot for it, and then we have the Rekindler as a follow-up. But we need to get more of a board presence going. Yep, sure. This is also helping us so their Ezreal is going to level up, but it is getting more direct damage out of the way.
We each died, then found home.
Again, we can't really slow down at this point. We have to try to burn as much as we can. So this is probably another Riptide Rex then. Oh no, just a map. Interesting. We're gonna board clear them anyways. They're at 8. They do have quite a bit. I think we have to save the Withering Wail. I don't think the 2 damage is going to matter much in case they play like another big threat.
Fire beware.
So they block as much damage as they can. Go down to 9. And then we pray like anything. We get to draw some cards. Or we might just deck out at this point. We don't have one of our Anivias yet to start cycling, but yeah, there it is. Oof. So they're very likely to start finding their pieces, and we don't have a way to deny this anyways. Which is kind of interesting. They've only seen one Ezreal, right? So there's a good chance that it's going to come online and we're very dead here. In this case, we'll probably just try to fire this off. Well, that's not a big deal at all. So we are going to go ahead and fire this off just to heal up a little bit, and then most likely our play here on the following turns is Vengeance, and that's all we can do. If they have enough cards to combo off with their Ezreal that they're most likely to play the full mana, then we're dead, and that's just kind of the acceptance phase, as it were. But, I mean, they really can't attack here, so that's fine. It's got to be their Ezreal.
Yeah, you don't want to cross me.
They can still play and have some mana up. I'm not really scared by what they have, right? It's got to be... Or I guess we can play the Sentry, but that shouldn't matter either. If they have Ezreal, they'll want to play it before they attack anyways, just so it can swing in for a damage and get another Mystic Shot. So if they have it, they should be playing it here. Well, they stole my ramp, and that's awkwardly super relevant here. So we can play the Sentry, and we can get rid of one of their blockers, right? Yeah, I think we just have to go for this as well. Not exciting. Kills a Twisted Fate. Does give us 3 more health, right? And it's 1 less blocker on their end. I imagine if they had something, they would have played it out. That's very fair. 14 to our 8. So again, we'll get to a point where those Anivias are going to come back and just cycle them throughout the deck. Okay, so they did hit one other thing. But now, yep, just open attack, nothing else really of value here. They have to block out, and that did actually save them, which is pretty upsetting. That nab is keeping them alive for a turn. Is it gonna matter? Let's find out. We're at 15, which feels okay, but not great. I mean, they only have 13 cards left, right? They burned quite a few spells. And that's like a warning shot that's gonna hit us no matter what we do. Yep, that's fine. Maybe we get lucky they play something slow where we can interact with this, but, you know, no matter what, they'll have the warning shot, so they're still getting the 2 damage. They might try to build out a couple barrels for, like, a Make It Rain, I guess, could be problematic. In that case, we could still use the Vile Feast and force them to pop the warning shot instead.
Deal me in.
This is a roller coaster from start to finish, I tell you. I cannot honestly believe that all 3 other Ezreals are on the, or sorry, the last 2 Ezreals are on the bottom cards there, but they just have to be, I guess. So our opponent has to win this turn. They have quite a few cards in hand as well. Okay, opening up with a warning shot. Riptide Rex.
Can they call me a shark?
Yeah, really doesn't matter. That's all fine. We don't really need a Vengeance anything. We have the Harsh Winds, right, to shut them out, and we still can block with... yeah, none of this really matters. We could just use a Vengeance, right? But I think we gotta save this for Ezreal, so we just Harsh Wind. Hopefully to draw a card. Oh, well, a better... a better Harsh Winds because it cycles back into our deck and we don't actually have to do anything. So that's pure value, as we would say. I feel bad because I think this person might be on like their Masters game, right? They were Diamond 1. Oh, that nab. Getting our own Anivia egg. Wow, that is super relevant for our opponent as well, which is kind of a bummer for us. We still have 2 Rekindlers left. We have a way to, unless they stole our Rekindlers, right? That's another problem. Nothing we can do here. Have to let this go. We can board wipe, and that gives us just the Anivia back for 5 damage. And then the Vile Feast is 6. Yep. That has to be the line we gotta take. Because they have no mana, right? So they can't interact with us in any meaningful way. They could still have more heal, but I think at least given our options here, it's gonna be the best play for us. I mean, they still have Make It Rain. They still have other stuff, right?
The Freljord's eternal guardian.
Okay, well, that opens up Ezreal though, with 7 cards, versus just like having 1 removal, because we can't do like Rekindler plus Vengeance, right? So it'd be 3. Okay, I have to actually figure out what have they played so far. Static Shocks are gone. Mystic Shots are all gone. They have like a Get Excited or 2, maybe. Plus, some of these are still our cards. Yeah, I think we play this anyways. We don't want to like be missing lethal by 1 just because of Spiderling.
You'll fight or you'll swim. You pick the losing side.
Four cards left. Oof. All right. The grind down continues. So they had the Withering Wail, so they would have survived anyways. And then there's the Ezreal coming down. It's a big bummer to us.
Oh, you miss me.
They only have 4 cards, which is nice, but things are looking kind of rough here. And then the Avalanche doesn't do anything because we have to use Vengeance on it. So we'll just bank our spell mana and hope for the best. Okay, a ramp. That does give us 3 healing, I guess. One of us is running out of cards.
I'm not greedy, my
And it looks like it might be me. Yeah. So again, we have to hold up this Anivia's Harsh Winds. This is 3 damage. Guess we have to see what else they play, right? No matter what, this will cycle back in for us. Remember when, okay, so good. So those last 2 cards are champions. So that works out for us pretty well. So now they can't do anything. They still have, we're only at 11. They have to attack here. No? Okay, so they're just trying to burn us out, and we have to attack here and see what it gives us. Right, because Ezreal's gonna die off the Anivias. And we can just keep shuffling these back in. What a game. What a very frustrating game this is turning out to be. All right, so the grass doesn't matter other than the fact they get to live. So we do have to cycle something in, and we still have a Vengeance up as well. Or I guess we don't have to cycle this turn, right? It's when we can play, we'd have to do it next turn, but we would most likely want a Vengeance. So yeah, I think we do have to, shuffle one this turn. All right, how many more of our cards will our opponent play? I guess we could just kind of go down the list. We could figure it out if I was focusing enough between the 2 of them, but I'm not going to waste my time trying to figure out the exact cards they have. Because we know ours is like, what, a Braum and Anivia? And we can just chump block all day. It's fine. Oh, and there you have it. So yes, Nav is super frustrating to play out, but you know, we did get there in the end because you can't steal champions, so you can't actually mill them out completely. So that is that was a game, no doubt.